we got Craig DeWitt coming on the show, co-founder and head of product at Super Mojo, an NFT payment solution where Craig also leads all product and engineering efforts. Craig was product director at Ripple, ever heard of him, where he started the RippleNet payments business in 2015 and grew that product into the world's first and largest crypto payment network for financial institutions.
Ripple, on top of XRPL, had been experimenting with a smart contract layer called Codius. And we had a decent intern. This is before my time, but we had a decent intern. His name was Vitalik, who came in and worked on that. I think he's Canadian, right?
He is,
so
yeah.
Like the kind of story internally, which I don't think there's any truth to, the story internally was, Canadian couldn't figure out the visa, thing as a startup. And, we don't want those Canadians taking our jobs down here. So could not make a fit at Ripple. He went on to do some decent things with another chain. But, it's amazing to think that there is a world where that whole kind of ecosystem that later became Ethereum is actually integrated or built on XRPL. That whole kind of ecosystem that later became Ethereum is actually integrated or built on XRPL.
Hey everybody, it's Eddie from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan, and I thought I'd start the video out with something to make you smile because, well, there might be a few things in this video that are not so much to smile about. This is Jungle Inc. He says he's done with crypto. I love that photo. Yeah, I understand how many people feel. It's been a very rough day on the market. This current wave down all began with the enforcement action that took place against Binance and Coinbase. And then we had to have this news that came out from Robinhood that their support for Matic, which is Polygon, Solana, and ADA, which is Cardano, is ending. This is a current capture of the top 100 by market cap, and you can just see it's just nasty. ADA has really been hit hard with a 24% down in the last 24 hours. Even Bitcoin has dipped below 26,000. It's sitting at 25,666. Wouldn't you know it? The 666. CZ weighed in a couple of hours ago on why the market was down, correcting some of the FUD that Binance was converting its holdings to fiat is not true. The fact is, Binance fiat stablecoin reserves, they were used to pay the salaries and a few expenses, but the crypto reserves have increased over the past months, weeks, and days. As in all markets, it's greed and fear. So, nothing new. Manage your risk and stay safe. When the Hinman emails are released, I think this current wave of fear is going to change the sentiment. And so we'll look forward to that. And you've got John Deaton with a really all-star legal panel lined up for Wednesday, June 14th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, where they're going to discuss the Hinman docs. I can't wait for this. I will share a little bit more of that interview with Craig DeWitt. It's very good. We'll save it for the last. And I was glad to find it. Another one of those under-the-radar videos, only 15 views when I had found it. It should be much higher because it was an excellent interview. I woke up this morning to a tweet from Cardano's Charles Hoskinson. 3 words: XRP community peace? I immediately replied, "Hi, Charles. I could, in a matter of minutes, organize a panel of the most respected, level-headed XRP community members where you would be our guest. You may not know, but all of the active YouTubers and Twitter aficionados, we're connected, and many of us speak regularly, whether directly or part of the XRP Crypto Wolf news group, we're connected. So for me to round up a stellar panel would just be no trouble. But so far, nothing back from Charles." A lot of this drama started in December. It all comes to a couple of tweets that came out of Charles where he thought that the XRP community was toxic, abusive, and communicating with us was pointless. And even he went on to say that life is too short, move on and cut it out. XRP provides no partnership or technical value. The community is toxic and petty, and I can live without it. Well, of course, those comments didn't go over well. Someone said, you're emotional, have a thick skin, man. And he said, no comment. And David even chimed in and said, you may want to wait a few days, read this back, and think about whether you're sure that's the combination of things you really want to say. And he replied, no comment. So yeah, it's kind of been this, no communication between Charles and the XRP community for a while. But I think, he has some amazing live Twitter streams he did today. And there were actually a couple of XRP community members in there that were able to ask him some questions. But I don't think it's really what we were looking for. At least that wasn't what I was looking for. I'd really love to have one of those heart-to-heart with Charles, with some chilled heads in the XRP community, because this is really the time that the whole ecosystem needs to work together against the forces of evil. It was nice to see this interaction between Charles and David. He says, are we cool? And David responded with this, it's all good. And Moonchaser said, Hucksters unite. Thanks, Gary Gensler, for bringing us crypto bros together. Wow, this was a big surprise for me today. This is BitBoy Crypto, Ben, promoting Link2. I couldn't believe it. He was speculating on why the price of the Ripple shares had surged in the last few days, and he thought it was, you can watch it, because I don't even want to say, because I don't agree with him at all. And I also just want to point out a fact here. The media Crypto Basic picked up that story, and I want to tell you that it is a perfect example of why you need to research. So journalists and investors, they need to check the public prices across the market, because the fact is Ripple share prices are quite wide ranging. And if you do your research, you'll find that some of those sources have actually trended downward in the last 12 months. I'm sure you're familiar with this wonderful image that was created by Johnny Lawrence, and he has blessed us with another design, this time celebrating the brand new chain that's coming from Win, or the XRPL Labs and team. He wrote that he hadn't made an XRP GIF in quite a long time, and it was nice to see some of the excitement back in the XRP community. Well, this is because of hooks. It's a chain that'll have the smart contracts functionality, which is going to open up so many new doors for innovation. I imagine a lot of you have noticed that those that are supporting the new chain have put the emoji hooks into their Twitter profile. I was just playing around and thought, wow, these would make a great pair of earrings. And I did remember that T-Boone and I have a little bit of unfinished business. T-Boone makes really wonderful titanium accessories. He did some custom work for me. You'll find it right there. I just love it. I actually turned the keychain into a necklace. Yeah. Me and my jewelry. I love jewelry. So I gave him the idea of using the hooks motif. And of course, as a creator, his mind went wild with a whole bunch of ideas. So I think you're going to see that come to the market very soon. Let's finish this video out with just a little bit more from that really great interview with Craig DeWitt. I invited him on the channel. I hope he takes it up, because I'd love to know more about his new company, Super Mojo. All right, everybody, do take care. Sayonara for now. Bye-bye.
Do you have any interesting, crazy, funny, heartbreaking, just any stories in general about your time at Ripple that perhaps aren't so mainstream, or, a lot of people wouldn't be cognizant of on the internet?
Yeah. Well, there's so much, especially those early days. Yeah. So we've had the characters that would come in the early days. I met Brock Pierce while he was doing like an investor thing, which was kind of a wild meeting. we had, early days we were getting together with central banks. And so we had really big folks coming in the office.
You guys were meeting with central banks that early on?
Yeah, because very early on, the concept was, on a cross-border basis, the issue with a cross-border basis, there's really no supranational organization that can hold that ledger I was talking about, right? Like until all the countries, it's kind of the United States with the dollar, like essentially, but really there's not a supranational organization that can do that. And so XRP and XRPL as a bridge asset could be that ledger, to where if you ever need to get from dollars to euros, instead of having a bank somewhere hold dollars and euros, you can actually cross through a very fast digital asset ledger, XRPL. And so we were talking to these central banks around the world. I remember one time, I won't say his position, but fairly high up in one of the Nordic central banks. This guy got so wasted at an event, there was like an emergency meeting to talk about we need to ask him to leave because, he's going to get super weird. Are there any like considerations before you ask a central bank delegate to leave? But, it was wild stuff going on back then. So before I got an MBA from Stanford, I'd gone to UC Berkeley. Yeah, which is a pretty radical campus. We had some out there stuff going on that kind of blew my mind. And while I was there, the 2008 financial crisis happened, and I saw the kind of pain that came out of that, and it just lit a fire under me that just infuriated me against this collusion of the system.
Craig, could you feel that? Could you sense the pain even as a uni student who? Assuming, again, I'm putting words in your mouth here, but assuming money isn't the be all end all, like most uni students, it's about learning and having fun and creating memories. Do you feel like you and most of your peers could feel the 2008 crash?
What I could feel is people I was close to, family, friends of family, actually affected by it.
Gotcha.
Actually deeply affected by it, right? And you could actually see it was no longer just this learning about Keynesian economics and supply and demand. And I was like, wow, there's pain. There's real pain here. And then the behavior of this government apparatus coming in and saving these banks who had made large bets and doing so with taxpayer money, and then bending over backwards to explain why it made sense for them to do so. My dad has a very small business. And what killed me about that is, if he was in trouble, he wouldn't have gotten a $10 billion package from the Fed to save his business. No, he'd be on the street.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was this these banks aren't actually bastions of capitalism. They're playing in this system where they're essentially nationalized in that they have a safety net behind them. And Bloomberg, I went to Bloomberg because I was fascinated with the financial aspect of things. It's where the money was. Yeah. But Bloomberg promised transparency into that system, right? It was supposed to be able to give transparency. That was the story that I really liked. And Bloomberg does a good job of that. And then from there is the further radicalization was how do you take it a step further? And that's cryptocurrency. And the best application of that at the time, and I still think to many, unless we talk about NFTs, at the time, the best application of cryptocurrency is payments. Yeah. One thing that I think has been maybe the saddest thing that I've seen over my 7 years of a bill in payments is every year I talk to really brilliant founders who see a payment problem in developing countries, places like the Philippines or within specific jurisdictions within Africa where they want to go and prevent these, because they see people don't have bank accounts. It's oh man, that's a problem that I can solve with technology. And in those cases, in developing countries, it's not really a technology problem. It's a regulatory issue. The point is that a lot of governments don't want people on the system if they don't actually know who they are and they don't have the documentation to prove it. Exactly, because you lose control, right? Yeah. And so seeing all these pieces come together, the financial side and the $1 billion bond payments and then also people who don't have access to this because of regulatory reasons being pushed out, Bitcoin comes on the scene, or at least I become aware of Bitcoin. And it's this oh my gosh, you have this asset that is accessible by anybody who has an internet connection, where it could be instantaneously sent anywhere in the world. And the key isn't just the tech, because you could conceivably do that on a centralized ledger. People were willing to trust someone, which in many cases they would. But because there's no central operator, the governments of the world can't come in and shut it down. And that's actually how you get the financial access. And it's just like, fell in love with it from there. So I went to Stanford and I met Chris Larson, and he was billing XRP all at the time. And that's history for me.